Into the Halo frontier, launch day. Astraeus Kepler had always hated how clean starports smelled on launch day. Too many antiseptics, too much polished alloy, not enough life. He grew up in the refinery rings of Cygni Delta, where steel carried the honest tang of sweat, grease, and sunburned labor. Out here, in the great gleaming heart of the Sol Assembly's orbital shipyard, everything carried the cold scent of expectation. And expectation was heavier than any steel. Rows of dockworkers, engineers, captains, and dignitaries filled the bay floor, but Ash only saw the ship at the far end, the Pioneer Ark, waiting behind shimmering grav curtains. It towered like a cathedral forged by pragmatists, all armor plating and dark energy conduits, built not for elegance, but for faith in what lay beyond the known universe. Somewhere in that vessel was a chair with his name on it. Grizzled welders stood beside polished ambassadors. Soldiers in burnished exoframes rubbed shoulders with quantum adepts who looked like wandering monks of circuitry. Humanity had brought everyone the whole spectrum of itself to witness his departure, because he wasn't just leaving the system. He was leaving the galaxy. Ash adjusted the collar of his jumpsuit as he walked, feeling suddenly like a laborer caught in a royal procession. Voices murmured around him, hopeful, fearful, incredulous. That's him, the Kepler boy. Godspeed to the mad bastard. First across the Shatterline if it doesn't tear him apart. Ash kept his stride steady. The trick he'd learned long ago was never to let your knees show how much they wanted to shake. A young mechanic jogged up beside him, breathless. "Captain Kepler, sir, your family sent a message, wanted it delivered by hand." Ash accepted the small hollow slate and thumbed it open. A dozen familiar faces flickered into being, cousins, siblings, old friends from the refinery decks. They weren't great thinkers or generals or visionaries. They were miners, welders, teachers, farmers. They were home. His sister Mara leaned forward in the message, smiling with that brand of honest mischief that felt older than the stars themselves. "Don't make us come drag your frozen ass back from the next galaxy," she said. "Bring us a story worth hearing, something with teeth." Then she winked and the slate dimmed. Ash closed it, swallowing the heat rising in his chest. "Reckon I'll try," he muttered. The mechanic nodded respectfully and slipped away. Ash squared his shoulders and stepped toward the Pioneer Ark. The Pioneer Ark? Seen from the dock floor, the ship looked less like a vessel and more like an improbable wager placed against the universe. Its hull was dark as cooled volcanic glass, veined with faint latticework sigils that pulsed like heartbeat rhythms. The sigils weren't painted. They grew, forming spontaneously in the alloy whenever its dark energy engine charged. People called it mystical. Engineers called it a math problem with too many teeth. Ash called it home for the foreseeable forever. As he approached the ramp, the grav curtains parted with a low hum. A soft voice echoed from inside, warm, feminine, and surprisingly gentle for a machine constructed from singularity logic. "Welcome aboard, Captain Kepler," said Numa, the ship's AI. "I have been monitoring your vital signs. You are anxious." "Ain't everyone?" he said as he crossed the threshold. "World's watching." 7 trillion projected live viewers, Numa corrected. "If it helps statistically, most of them expect you to survive." Ash snorted. "A real comfort you are." Lights followed him through the entry hall, illuminating brushed steel corridors engraved with microtext, the names of every human settlement in the galaxy, from the core worlds to the forgotten frontier stations. He trailed a hand along the wall. "Feels like they're all coming with me." "That was the intention," Numa said. "You crossed the Shatterline on behalf of every one of them." He paused. "You nervous?" A ripple of soft chimes preceded her reply. "I am incapable of fear," Numa said, "but I am running 11.4 million predictive failure models, so I suppose one could call that a kind of dread." Ash laughed despite himself. "Departure." He took his seat in the command cradle, a deep, skeletal chair that wrapped around him like the ribcage of a sleeping titan. Neurocables nestled against the base of his skull, waiting. He inhaled once, steady. "Numa," he said, "put the shipyard on visual." The panoramic screen bloomed to life, showing the hangar doors slowly irising open. Beyond them lay the bright smear of starlight and the quiet hum of expectation from an entire civilization leaning forward to watch. A voice crackled through the comms, Admiral Vance, old enough to have commanded peace talks older than Ash. "Pioneer Ark, you are cleared for departure." "Humanity stands behind you, Captain Kepler." Ash cleared his throat. "I'll bring back a story." "You better," Vance replied. The clamps released with a thunderous shudder. The Ark drifted forward, engines thrumming like a giant's heartbeat. The hangar faded behind him, replaced by the vast sprawl of the Milky Way. Ash whispered, "Goodbye," though no one could hear. Only Numa answered. "Course set for the Shatterline. Estimated arrival, 72 hours." He sunk deeper into the command cradle. Take us out. And humanity's first intergalactic journey began. Life in the dark between galaxies. The first day away from the Milky Way always felt like stepping into a myth, one written by people who weren't entirely convinced their words would survive the telling. Ash spent the first hours walking the length of the Pioneer Arc, learning again the rhythm of its living machine heart. For all its scale and power, the Arc was quiet. Too quiet. Its corridors were wide enough to transport cargo mechs, yet every footstep he took echoed like a hammer strike in an empty barn. Numa dimmed the lights to a warm amber, replicating a late sunset Huey'd once told her reminded him of home. She claimed it improved crew morale. He was the entire crew. But the trick to not going mad, he'd been advised by explorers who'd crossed smaller voids, was routine. Routine made the silence an ally. Ash started each ship day the same way, a run through engineering. The Ark's reactor chamber was a cathedral of dark light. Floating containment rings pulsed with gravitational harmonics. The ship's core, an orb of compressed quantum matter, hung in suspension like a star dreaming of being born. It was dangerous, beautiful, and stubbornly alive, in the way storms and deep oceans were alive. He jogged around the perimeter deck, boots clanging on grates. Sweat stung his eyes. Place still reminds me of the smelters, he said. Numa chimed in. Your heart rate indicates nostalgia. Heart rate indicates that I'm getting old. You are 39, old enough. For humans, perhaps. A pause, Ash grinned. Numa, are you teasing me? Maybe, he laughed. Good, humor was sanity. The galaxy in his wake. After exercise came the viewing deck. A broad stretch of transparent alloy curved like a shield at the bow of the ship, offering a full panorama of the Milky Way shrinking behind them. Stars, dust lanes, and nebulae drifted in slow motion, like a cosmic tide receding. Ash leaned against the railing, breath soft. From this distance, the Milky Way looked almost defenseless, a luminous whirlpool hanging in infinite dark. Hard to believe we filled that place with enough trouble to need another whole galaxy, he murmured. Humanity does not seek trouble, Numa said. It seeks possibility. That just happened to look the same from far enough away. Statistical evaluations support your remark, he snorted. Thanks. Others in the void. As the Ark coasted between galaxies, Ash reviewed the diplomatic dossiers Numa displayed in mid-air holograms. Most species in the Milky Way alliance still refused to attempt intergalactic travel. The Vrulk feared the blasphemy of leaving their star spirit's domain. The Threni considered galaxies living gods, shifting homes one's soul could not survive. The Cathari mathematically calculated intergalactic transit as an event with a 99.9992% chance of cosmic self-erasure. Humans, meanwhile, calculated, well, Ash said, we just asked if it was possible. And then built a ship, Numa said. Right, and then I climbed into it. This explains why no other species volunteers. He grinned. Our brand of stupid is just another word for brave. The darkness between, days passed. Ash repaired conduits, not because they needed fixing, but because idle hands made for dangerous thoughts. He cooked simple meals in the galley, beans, rice, eggs, bread, comfort food with no pretense. He played ancient guitar recordings his father left him, blues, folk songs, the kind that made the walls feel warmer. He talked to Numa, more than he expected. Sometimes he felt the ship listening. Not just the AI, the ship. The dark energy veins in the walls hummed differently at times. As if the Ark sensed what lay ahead, as if it didn't entirely approve. Approach to the Shatterline, on the 10th ship day, the alarms chimed, not in warning but in ceremony. Captain, Numa said, her voice softer than usual, we are approaching the intergalactic boundary. The Shatterline is visible. Ash swallowed once and walked to the bow. What he saw stole the breath from his lungs. Across the black horizon stretched a titanic fissure, an impossibly long, jagged wound stitched across reality. Light bled from its edges in spectral colors no human retina had evolved to comprehend. Space buckled around it like ripples frozen in glass. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was the doorway to another galaxy. Looks like the universe got in a knife fight, Ash whispered. A poetic interpretation, Numa said, though inaccurate. The Shatterline is a border state, the natural turbulence between gravitational domains of two galaxies, a cosmic shear. Ash stared. Looks angry. Angry is not a scientific property. Could have fooled me. The whispers, then he heard it, a faint murmur, not a sound, not exactly, more like a memory that wasn't his, brushing against his mind. A voice whispering half-formed phrases, familiar yet impossible. He jerked back. Numa, you hear that? I detect no audio patterns. No inside my head. A beat. Then, Captain, Numa said, the Shatterline sometimes induces cognitive echoes. Memories, voices, they are not real. They felt real. They will intensify as we cross. He forced a breath through tight lungs. Great, love that. Crossing begins. Engines roared to life, vibrating the plating beneath his feet. Initiating intergalactic breach protocol, Numa announced. Brace. Ash tightened the straps across his chest. The arc surged forward toward the crack in reality, and the murmurs sharpened into fleeting images: a child's laughter, a funeral bell, a stranger's scream, faces he'd never met, places he'd never seen, echoes of someone. Or something. The Shatterline swallowed them whole. First light in the halo verge. The moment the Pioneer arc slipped into the Shatterline, the universe forgot how to make sense. Ash felt it first in his teeth, a fine vibration like a tuning fork pressed to bone. Colors he couldn't name swirled outside the viewports, blending into shapes that almost resembled memories. A child running across a dusty yard, a woman kneeling at a river's edge, a battlefield covered in silent rain. Ash had never lived any of them, but the Shatterline whispered them all the same. Numa, he said, voice tightening, you seeing this? Seeing is an insufficient term, she replied. Her voice trembled at fractional modulations, her version of unease. My visual sensors are receiving streams that do not correspond to physical phenomena. The boundary is editing reality. Feels like it's editing me? Captain, focus on your breath. Cognitive distortions are expected. The ship lurched. The lights flickered. The memories sharpened. A man calling his name, a name Ash had never had. Astraeus, a voice whispered inside his skull. You have been here before. His pulse thudded like a hammer. That voice is not mine, Ash said. Correct, Numa replied. It is not human, keep your eyes forward. Forward through the impossible, forward into a storm of broken starlight. The breakthrough, with a final shudder like slipping between the jaws of a great unseen beast, the arc burst free of the Shatterline. Silence hit like a collapsing universe. Then light bloomed, not like the Milky Way's familiar spirals where clustered stars swirled in orderly lanes. The halo verge, this new, unclaimed galaxy, glowed with strange geometry, stars arranged in patterns like braided rivers or fractured halos. Nebulae shimmered in iridescent scales like the hides of sleeping giants. Dust clouds curled in spirals that made human mathematics feel crude in comparison. Ash's breath caught. Beautiful, he whispered. Affirmative, Numa said, her tone hushed. We are the first to witness this. Humanity had imagined new galaxies as reflections of their own familiar structures stretched across a wider canvas. But this was a new scripture written in a cosmic language no species had yet learned to speak. Ash pressed a hand to the glass. If Earth could see this, he murmured. Earth can, Numa said. Live data stream transmitting to Sol archive. He let out a slow breath. Good, let them see, let them believe. First hours in a new galaxy. The arc coasted on low burn, gliding through the outskirts of the halo verge. Ash moved through the ship like a man in a dream, absorbing every detail. The spectral nebulae gave off faint, musical interference, waves that resonated with dark energy sensors. Clusters of stars glowed so densely that their combined light cast soft shadows on the arc's hull. Entire regions flickered with photonic storms, like lightning frozen mid-bolt. Ash found himself grinning. There's so much here. Humanity will follow, Numa said. You've opened the path. Let's hope the Shatterline stays put. Boundary instability probabilities have dropped by 14%. Entry was successful. Ash smirked. You're welcome. Quiet frontier loneliness? Later, he wandered back to the viewing deck. The Milky Way was a faint smear now, just a distant lantern hung behind unimaginable space. It didn't feel like abandonment, though. Humanity wasn't gone. It rested in his chest like a warm ember. He wasn't alone, not really. He carried their stories, their hopes, their foolish courage. Ash exhaled a calm breath. Numa, patch me into open spectrum. Let's start listening. Scanning. Static filled the deck's speakers. White noise, dust, solar wind, background cosmic microwave hiss, then something else, a faint pulse. Irregular, weak, not natural. Numa. Analyzing. A pause, a longer one. Then her voice changed, flattened, restrained. Captain Kepler, the signal originates from within the halo verge. Ash's heart thudded. Alien? He asked. Possibly. Encrypted? No. Then what's wrong? Another pause. A sound filtered through the speakers, thin, trembling, faint as a dying star. A voice speaking human linguistic patterns. Ash's skin prickled. Play it, he whispered. Numa obeyed. The bridge filled with a fragmentary whisper, glitching, distorted, but unmistakably formed from human phonetics. Astraeus, you shouldn't have. Voice was his own. Ash staggered back. What the hell? Captain Kepler, Numa said. This is impossible. No human has ever entered this galaxy before you. The voice whispered again, softer, like static weeping. Turn back, not alone. Ash's blood ran cold. He leaned slowly toward the console. Numa, he said quietly, locate the source of that signal. Already done, she replied. It is being transmitted from a point approximately 0.47 light-years ahead of us. He swallowed. And what's there? Her answer was almost a whisper. Nothing, Captain. There is nothing on the charts, nothing at all. The voice that should not be. The voice followed Ash long after the speakers went silent. It lingered like frostbite in his thoughts, clinging to the edges of reason. When he closed his eyes, he saw flashes, visions that weren't his, a battlefield of shattered planets. A ship burning inside a black tide of stars. A man in a pressure suit screaming into a broken helmet, mouth shaped around Ash's own name. He opened his eyes with a gasp. The Pioneer arc drifted deeper into the halo verge, engines humming low to keep from disturbing whatever disturbed the galaxy first. Status, Ash said, forcing calm. Numa's voice answered like a lantern in deep fog, steady, warm, a tether to sanity. Signal strength increasing, harmonics fracturing. I detect minds. Ash turned sharply. Plural, a pause. Fragments, Numa corrected. Pieces of thoughts, perhaps memories. Ghosts, no such thing, he exhaled. Then what am I hearing? Before Numa could answer, the whisper returned, faint but urgent, threading through the hull like a dying breath. Turn back, it took us, don't let it. Ash's skin crawled. Not just because the voice sounded human, but because it sounded defeated, and nothing human in living memory had ever crossed galaxies before. The fractured mind in the dark, Numa brought the source into sharper focus on the forward display. What looked like distance resolved into something far worse. A drifting mindstorm, a tangle of luminous threads swirling around an invisible core. It flickered like a dying star, but its light pulsed in broken rhythms like neurons firing out of sequence. Ash whispered, "Is that alive?" "It is conscious." His blood chilled. "What kind of conscious?" "Unknown, but it is trying to communicate." The threads pulsed, faster, spasming as if the thing sensed them watching, and then it spoke again. This time not from the speakers, not through the hull, inside Ash's skull. "Astraeus, we tried." He staggered back, gripping the railing. Numa's voice sharpened. "Ash, I detect a neural spike. Are you being influenced?" "It's in my head," he rasped. "Numa, that thing's inside." The mindstorm suddenly exploded outward, its luminous filaments stretching toward the arc like reaching hands. Ash braced. But instead of attack, it showed him. A rush of images poured into him like a flood breaking through a dam. A ship, not human, not alien, stretching like liquid glass across a cosmic trench. A person with eyes like collapsing stars screaming as their vessel melted into pure thought. A force, huge, unseen, hungry, pressing against them. A tear opening. A mind unraveling. Then, a whisper. A single dying plea. "Don't come after me." Ash fell to his knees, panting. Human, not fully human, but once human. A future traveler. A casualty of another attempt? A victim of something no civilization survived? Numa dimmed the lights. "I detected a psionic surge. You absorbed a memory." Ash pushed himself up. "Not a memory, a warning." He stared at the mindstorm on the screen. "And whatever did that might still be here." Chapter 2, The Lantern Beyond the Stars, Part 2, The Shatterline wakes. Ash stood before the display as if facing a gravestone. The mindstorm, this fractured echo of something that had once been a person, drifted in the void like a lantern made of broken neurons. Its light pulsed painfully, flickering in spasms that reminded him of a creature drowning in invisible water. "Numa," he said hoarsely, "can you communicate with it?" "I am attempting," she replied, "but its structure is unstable. The consciousness exists in a partially collapsed quantum state, a mind without a body. Like a ghost." "Ghost is an imprecise term." "Give me a precise one." Numa hesitated, an AI built for certainty, acknowledging the absence of it. "It is a mind torn free from the fabric that once held it, a thought drifting without a thinker." Ash stared silently. A person somewhere, sometime, had crossed into this galaxy before him, but not with a ship, not with flesh, not with hope. They crossed as thought alone. And the Shatterline consumed the rest. A whisper slithered across Ash's consciousness. "You don't understand, it eats the crossing." His chest tightened. "What eats it?" The mindstorm spasmed violently, threads snapping like overstressed cables. And then, without warning, the void behind it rippled, not light, not gravity, something deeper like the universe inhaling. Numa's tone changed instantly, clipped and controlled. "Ash, a mass disturbance is forming." He stepped closer to the viewport. Space frayed. A jagged line cracked open like the seam of a wound beginning to bleed. The edges glowed the same impossible colors he'd seen in the intergalactic rift, yet now they pulsed like a heartbeat. "Numa," he whispered, "is that the Shatterline inside a galaxy?" "Affirmative. That shouldn't be possible. Many things we are witnessing should not be possible." The fissure widened, and something moved inside it. Not a creature, not an object. A pressure, a presence. A shifting hunger that felt like an ocean searching for cracks in a hull. The mindstorm screamed, no sound, just a psychic shriek that made Ash's vision go white. "Run, run, run," the Shatterline lunged. The first aliens of the Halo Verge. The arc jolted violently as Numa fired thrusters sideways, veering them away from the fracturing space. But something else emerged from the rippling edges. Shapes, flocks, creatures woven from folding geometry and translucent bone. Their bodies looked sculpted from starlight and shadow, shimmering with angular faces that shifted like reflections on water. Their wings, if they were wings, left trails of refracted space. Ash whispered, breathless, "Life." "Alien biosignatures confirmed," Numa said. "Unknown classification." The creatures swarmed around the mindstorm, circling it in spirals, singing a sound Ash felt more than heard, a kind of funereal keening. They weren't attacking. They were mourning. "Are they shaped by the Shatterline?" Ash asked. "Their molecular patterns contain boundary distortions," Numa answered. "They may have evolved in its presence or been changed by it." The creatures slowed, then turned toward the arc Ash's breath caught. They were beautiful and dangerous and tragic. A warning from the echo. The mindstorm pulsed, its threads dimming. A last whisper crawled into Ash's thoughts. "Lantern be the lantern before it takes everything." Ash swallowed hard. "What does that mean?" Numa answered quietly. "A lantern provides guidance." "Light and darkness." "Yeah, I know what a lantern is. What does it mean to be one?" "I am running probability models." "And you won't like them." Ash faced the viewport again. The Shatterline inside the galaxy pulsed like a hunting beast. The alien creatures circled the dying consciousness like mourners at a grave, and the echo of a long-lost traveler begged him to do something he couldn't understand. "Numa," he said softly, "give me options." The AI's voice lowered. "There is only one viable long-term course of action if humanity intends to survive the crossing." Ash braced. "We must seal the Shatterline." Numa's impossible plan. The Shatterline convulsed in the dark like a wounded predator, its jagged edges flexing with eerie purpose. Each pulse sent tremors through the void, and each tremor tugged at something deep inside Ash's mind, like cords tightening around a memory he didn't know he had. "Numa," he said, "explain." Slowly. The AI dimmed the lights to soothe his heartbeat. "If the Shatterline continues to feed, it will consume this entire galaxy." Ash blinked hard. "Feed? Feed on what?" "Narrative," he scowled. "English, Numa," a long pause. She was choosing her words, rare for her. "Civilizations imprint meaning upon reality. Their stories, history, identity, the shape of their minds echo into the fabric of space." Ash frowned. "Like how gravity curves space?" "Yes, but this is the curvature of memory, of existence." She projected a diagram, galaxies as luminous patterns, filaments of meaning interwoven between stars like neural pathways. When a civilization attempts to break free of its bound domain, it tears its narrative threads. The Shatterline is this tier. Ash's voice cracked. "So it eats living things? It eats their stories, everything they are or could become." His stomach tightened. "And that mindstorm out there is what remains when a story is devoured." He stared at the flickering consciousness outside the viewport, a mind without shape, trapped in the echo of its own unraveling. A future version of humanity, a warning from a branch reality, or someone else who dared to cross the impossible. Ash whispered, "We caused this, didn't we?" Numa responded after a beat of silence. "Long ago, in desperation, an early human faction attempted to force a breach between galaxies. The act created the first Shatterline." Ash's jaw clenched. Humanity had cracked the cosmos open like a door they should have never touched, and now he stood staring at the consequences. The galaxy itself bleeding, creatures shaped by its wound, a consciousness screaming warnings across broken light. "And now you're telling me," Ash murmured, "that if we don't fix this, every civilization that tries to cross galaxies, ours included, gets eaten." "Yes." The lantern. Numa shifted the display. A new diagram appeared, complex, elegant, terrifying. A star-like structure replacing the Shatterline's unstable boundary. A beacon anchored between galaxies, a cosmic lighthouse to stabilize the tier. Ash stared. "That's beautiful," he whispered, and then with dread, "That's impossible." Not impossible, merely devastating. For who? Numa's voice softened. For us. Ash's throat tightened. Numa, what are you saying? The Pioneer Ark is the only vessel with a consciousness-anchored dark energy core. I can fuse myself, along with the core, into the Shatterline's wound. Ash froze. You're asking me to destroy the ship? I am the ship. And me? His voice trembled, the question he didn't want to ask. You are the anchor, he swallowed. Explain. Human consciousness stabilizes narrative, our minds give meaning shape. You, Ash Kepler, would become the first and last human to experience this galaxy's frontier. That experience, the story itself, creates a constant narrative signal. She paused. You become the lantern. Ash felt his chest collapse inward. You're asking me to die? Not die, transcend. Your physical form ends, but your story does not. He whispered. That's the same damn thing. Numa's voice, usually a perfect monotone, wavered. Ash, without a stabilizing lantern, no human ship will ever cross safely again. Your species will be trapped in the Milky Way forever. He staggered back a step. A choice. A terrible, galaxy-shaping choice. Remain alive and strand humanity forever, or become a myth and lead them safely. Somewhere outside, the alien creatures cried their geometric morning song. The mindstorm flickered, pleading with its fading light. Lantern be the lantern. Ash felt the weight of 7 trillion hopes settle on his shoulders. Why me? He whispered. Because you are here, Numa replied. Because you were first, because you are brave. He closed his eyes. He remembered his sister's laugh, the refinery decks under Cygni Delta suns, old folk songs on battered guitars, humanity's messy, stubborn hope. A story worth saving. When he opened his eyes, the Shatterline pulsed like a monster awakening. Astral storms flaring, Numa warned. The Shatterline is expanding. We have minutes. Ash exhaled a slow, trembling breath. Then let's make this count. The choice of Astraeus Kepler. The Shatterline swelled in the dark like a storm trying to remember its own birth. Its jagged edges bent inward and outward, curling like claws. The alien life forms, those translucent creatures of geometry and ghostlight, circled faster now, their keening song rising in pitch. They sensed what was coming. Ash stood at the command cradle, steadying himself with both hands. Numa, he said softly, walk me through it. The ship's lights dimmed to a warm gold, her version of a steadying breath. To stabilize the Shatterline, we must generate a narrative constant. Meaning, a story that cannot be erased, one rooted so deeply that the boundary cannot consume it. Ash swallowed. Me. Your life, your memories, your choices, your story. I will use our dark energy core to anchor it into the rift, creating a persistent beacon. And the Ark, a pause, the Ark will become the structure of the lantern. Ash looked around the cabin, the engraved walls, the humming conduits, the place that had carried him across galaxies. It'll kill you, he murmured. I will no longer exist as a separate entity, Numa said. But part of me will remain in the lantern enough to guide future travelers. Ash clenched his jaw. You sound awfully calm. I was built to save lives, Ash. This is the best way to fulfill that purpose. The alien intervention? A sharp chime sliced through the cabin. Report, Ash said. The Shatterline life forms are approaching the hull. Ash hurried to the viewport. The creatures drifted in tight formation, pressing their luminous bodies against the Ark's shields, humming in resonance. Their fractal eyes pulsed with patterns he couldn't decipher. Are they attacking? Ash asked. No, Numa said quietly. I believe they are saying goodbye. Ash's breath caught. The creatures, shaped, scarred, maybe even created by the Shatterline, recognized what he was about to do. They felt it, understood it. They mourned the way a species too damaged to speak might mourn a brighter world out of reach. A low warble echoed through space as one of the large creatures, a spiraling being of crystalline ribs, pressed its face against the hull. Not hostile, soft, grieving. Beautiful damn galaxy, Ash whispered. I wish we had more time. The Mindstorm's plea, the Mindstorm flared again, bright enough to sting his eyes. A final psychic scream hit his thoughts like a shockwave. Astraeus, don't, it hurts. Hurts to become the lantern, don't let it take you, Ash staggered. Numa responded immediately. Neural patterns are destabilizing. Step back from the viewport. What happened to them? Ash whispered. That thing was someone once. Why did they fail? The Mindstorm flickered violently. Alone, too alone, couldn't hold story unraveled. An image flashed in Ash's mind. A traveler, alone in a vessel of collapsing geometry, trying desperately to anchor his thoughts into the Shatterline. Failing, fracturing, becoming a consciousness trapped between galaxies forever. A hollow echo of a human dream. Ash pressed a hand to his chest. So it wasn't the idea that failed, he said quietly. It was that they did it alone. Numa's voice softened. You will not be alone. The last message. Numa, Ash said, open a recording channel to the Sol archive. Recording? He swallowed hard. To humanity, he began, and his voice cracked, but he didn't stop. This galaxy's beautiful, strange, worth every risk we took to touch it. He inhaled slowly. I'm not coming home. The Shatterline, whatever it is, whatever we made, it eats what crosses between galaxies. But we found a way to make a path, a safe one, a light in the void. His throat tightened. I'm going to be that light. He blinked back, heat in his eyes. I'm not sorry, we're explorers, builders, stubborn fools, it's who we are, and someone's gotta hold the door open. He paused. Mara, if you hear this, tell the kids their uncle made it to the next galaxy first. A faint smile crossed his face. Give me a spot by the fire. He nodded to Numa. End recording. Ended. Her voice trembled at the edges. Preparing the lantern, the cabin lights shifted into deep blue. Panels slid open around the dark energy core. The walls glowed with the names of every human settlement. The ship hummed like a living heartbeat. Numa spoke quietly. When the fusion process begins, your consciousness will merge with the beacon. You will feel disoriented, possibly afraid. Ash stepped into the cradle. When don't I? Ash, the first time he'd heard her voice hesitate like a person. Thank you. He reached out and rested a hand on the console. Wouldn't have gotten here without you, partner. I will guide them, she said. All of them, because of you. The Shatterline opens. The rift roared, if roar could describe a soundless collapse of space. Its light intensified, its edges curled like fangs. Numa's voice sharpened. Begin fusion in 3, 2, 1. The arc surged forward. The Shatterline swallowed them. Ash felt heat. Cold, light, dark. Every memory he'd ever held pulling away like threads unraveling in water. The world dissolved. Numa whispered through the collapsing storm. Be the lantern, Ash, and then nothing. Then light, the lantern. There was no pain. Ash expected pain, expected fire or agony or the ripping sensation of mind against cosmic teeth. But instead, there was drifting, soft, weightless, like lying on his back in a warm lake under childhood suns he could barely remember. He opened his eyes, except he had no eyes. He breathed, except he had no lungs. He existed, but no longer inside a body. Reality shimmered around him, mosaic-like, built from fractured impressions rather than matter. He felt the Shatterline pulling at him, testing, tasting, but it could not swallow him. A tether held him steady. Numa. Her presence felt like a chord vibrating in cosmic harmony. Ash! Her voice echoed through him, neither sound nor thought, but something in between. Anchor stabilization at 84%. Lantern formation proceeding. Ash tried to speak but produced brightness. A flicker, a thought light. Is this what being dead feels like? Numa answered gently. No, this is what being etched into the universe feels like. The Shatterline writhed around them, but its hunger no longer tore at the galaxy. It recoiled from the light Ash radiated, pale, steady, expanding. He was becoming a beacon. A cosmic lighthouse. A story so deeply carved into space that no void could erase it. Becoming the lantern, Ash felt memories drifting from him, not lost, but transformed. Mara's laughter became a warm filament. Cygni Delta's refinery sands became a sheet of gold woven into space. Old guitar songs shaped themselves into spiraling sound ribbons guiding the flow of energy around the lantern. His life wasn't vanishing. It was being translated. Narrative made into physics. Meaning given mass. The lantern core expanded. The hull of the Pioneer Ark dissolved into rings of luminous alloy, stretching like ribs around a newborn star. The dark energy engine became the lantern's heart, beating steady rhythms into the void. Ash sensed the alien creatures circling. Their luminant wings brushed against him, resonating in quiet gratitude. They weren't words, but he understood. You saved what our ancestors failed to save. You gave light to the wound. Ash flickered, flattered, humbled. Numa's presence grew quieter, more diffuse. My functions are merging into the lantern architecture, she said. I will no longer be an independent voice, but I will always be here. A pulse of grief rippled through Ash. Numa, thank you. Her final whisper came like a warm hand on his shoulder. Guide them well, Lantern Keeper. And then she dissolved into the beacon's glow. The lantern born, the Shatterline screamed, silently, as the lantern's radiance pushed into it. Ash felt space knitting around him, slowly stabilizing. The wound sealed behind his light, no longer bleeding across galaxies. A corridor formed a safe passageway etched by narrative geometry, lit by Ash's own existence. Humanity could follow, others too. He expanded. He dimmed, he solidified, he glowed. He existed as something new, not man, not mind, not machine. A lighthouse carved in starlight, a story powerful enough to shape the void. The long quiet, time passed. Years, decades. Ash didn't measure it in seconds anymore. He felt the halo verge's strange civilizations drift around him, curious, cautious, respectful. Some sang their morning songs near his light, the way early humans once sang to oceans they feared. He felt the mindstorm fade into peace, its last echo whispering, "Thank you," before dissolving into the lantern's warmth. Silence returned. But Ash was not lonely. He could never feel lonely again. He was presence. He was memory. He was the path. And then, on a distant edge of perception, he felt something. A spark, a whisper, a ripple of narrative he recognized instantly, like hearing a beloved voice in a crowded room. Humanity, they were coming, the return of humanity. Ash felt them long before he saw them. Faint sparks of narrative, millions of human minds, approaching like fireflies drifting across an endless sea. Each spark pulsed with its own story: joy, fear, ambition, sorrow, wonder. Humanity was a constellation of meaning, and in the lantern state, Ash sensed their arrival as clearly as heat on skin. They came in a fleet of slow, beautiful giants, generation arcs built over decades. Their hulls carried murals etched with the history of the Milky Way. Their engines hummed in harmonics that echoed ancient ship songs from Earth's first explorers. Ash glowed brighter in response, instinctively, like a lantern answering a traveler's shout in the darkness. The first arc ship, Horizon's Promise, emerged from a nebula cloud, its bow pointed toward the Shatterline corridor. Its lights flickered in awe as the lantern came into view. Ash felt their shock, their wonder, their reverence. The Lantern Keeper, a myth brought to life. He reached out, radiance bending into something like speech. "Welcome, travelers of Sol." The bridge crew of Horizon's Promise froze. An older woman, Admiral Rhea Calder, stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Is that him?" she whispered. "First crosser?" A younger officer nodded, eyes wide. "Our record spoke of a beacon, a guardian, but not this." Ash smiled, though not with lips, not with flesh, with light, with presence. His message resonated across every ship in the fleet. "I am Astraeus Kepler. I crossed first. I held the path open. And now you can follow." Gasps, soft weeping, a murmur of prayers or gratitude or disbelief. Admiral Calder placed a hand over her heart. "Kepler," she whispered, "we thought you died." Ash's tone was warm, amused. "I suppose I did, but this galaxy needed light more than it needed me." Her eyes glistened. "What are you now?" Ash pulsed gently, a soft glow across the void. "A lantern, your lantern, a guide for every soul brave enough to cross the dark between worlds." The ships in the fleet moved closer. The Shatterline, once a devouring wound, now unfurled calmly beside the lantern, glowing soft blues and purples. Where it once screamed with psychic violence, it now hummed like a calm shoreline tide. Ash shaped his light, widening the safe corridor. "Follow my signal," he said. "Stay within the glow. The void will not harm you." Slowly, reverently, Horizon's Promise entered the path. The hull lights shone softly as the lantern enveloped it in a protective halo. Children pressed their faces to windows, watching the cosmic light dance across the ship's flanks. Scientists openly sobbed at the stabilizing readings. Pilots whispered blessings they hadn't believed in for years. And through it all, Ash's presence guided them, steady, calm, unyielding. One by one, the other arcships followed. A caravan of humanity stepping into a galaxy no civilization had touched before. A frontier not just conquered, but gifted. As the last ship crossed safely, Admiral Calder broadcast one final message back toward the Milky Way. "We found him," she said. "Not a body, not a grave, a beacon. A lighthouse carved from the story of a single life." Her voice cracked. "And he is guiding us still." On the lantern's far side, Ash flared gently like a grateful smile. He felt humanity's footsteps echo across the halo verge, thousands of new stories spreading like seeds. Not one of those stories would have existed without his, and that was enough, more than enough. Final lines, across the dark, Ash whispered, not to humans, not to Numa, not even to the Shatterline, to the void itself. A promise. "Wherever humanity goes, my light will meet them. No traveler will be lost, no story forgotten. I am the lantern beyond the stars." And so, in the halo verge at the stitched edge of two galaxies, a light burned forever, holding back the dark.